Hey, Bloomfield Hills, Birmingham, surrounding areas, and YouTube. I'm your host, Kat Orlando, broadcasting via Bloomfield Community TV. And I've been back performing, back from Florida, where we've been performing, and we did many shows there, this show remotely. So now today I'm going to be remote as well due to the schedule conflicts and Memorial Holiday and all that. But not to worry, we're still bringing you all the fun content and all the music. But I got one announcement. So I just want to let everybody know to look for my band, the Kat Orlando Band, June 6th in Sterling Heights at Rogers Roost. That's in Sterling Heights, June 6th. So for more information, go to the website catorlando.com for more info. So now today, I'm going to continue with the series of music conversations I've been having with local Detroit artists. And this gentleman coming up right here is multi-talented guitarist, vocalist, and songwriter. Say hello to Duane Harlick. Hey,
Hi.
there you are. Hi, Duane.
How you
How are
doing?
you doing? Good, good. Hey, thanks for being on here with me.
Sure.
And good to see you. Love the guitars back there. I'm sure.
Yeah, those are actually what I would call my non-functional members. They're wall decorations. This one is literally my very first guitar from when I was a child.
Nice.
And then the one in the middle is
Mhm.
my friend from high school. We used to play together, and when we graduated and he took off and didn't want to play anymore, he gave it to me, and I just had it completely restored and rebuilt, put back together.
Really?
So it's kind of a
Wow.
sentimental piece.
That's very nice. Very beautiful. I wanted to start things out by asking you to tell our audience who you are and what you do in your own words. So go ahead.
Well, like I say, whenever I perform, my name's Duane and I write songs. That's
Mhm.
kind of what I do. Obviously, I sing them and perform them, but more and more lately, like within the last 10 years or so, I'm doing a lot more writing with and for other people, which has been great.
Oh,
I got involved with a guy named Jim Asbell down in Florida, and he does the Florida coastal music type thing, the tropical country kind of a deal.
oh,
And
right.
so I wrote a bunch of stuff for him and put that out a few years ago, and it's done really well for him. So now we're doing festivals down there and headlining and stuff, and he's having a good time with that. And I'm working up here with a guy named Brad Stewart, writing with him, getting ready for his new follow-up to his most recent release.
Nice.
So that's been keeping me busy. But
Nice.
mostly writing. I play a lot too, but mostly I'm somebody else's guitar player. I think, and I had this conversation with someone recently, as far as me as a solo artist going out and doing my songs and that's like fourth or fifth on the hierarchy of important things right now. So
I could totally relate to that. It's
yeah,
but you still
because
pursue
I'm
your
pretty busy.
passion, your very own
Oh
passion.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So what initially drew you into music and playing the guitar and singing? Way
You
back when.
know, way back when, some of my earliest memories are listening to, the record player when I was, just an infant. I still
Okay.
remember the song Red Roses for a Blue Lady would play on
Oh yeah.
the Decca record.
Right,
It
right.
would
You
play
remember the label, right?
all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then growing up in a small little tiny house with a kind of a seafoam green AM radio on the counter that played Motown day
Oh,
and night, CKLW and all that other fun stuff.
yep. Yep.
Um, and those are my earliest memories of music. And as far as getting into it, I started singing very early and got into guitar in elementary school. My sister had a guitar. I have a sister who was a few years older than me,
Oh,
and she got a guitar for her birthday, but didn't do anything with it. And I was a bored, introverted kid and saw an opportunity, so I stole it and learned to play it. And it was one of those things where once I got into it, once I got it in my hands, I couldn't put it down, and I've just been riding
sure.
it ever since.
Oh, so you saw the guitar just sitting there, right? And it's like, well, somebody's got to play
Yeah,
this thing, right?
yeah,
Right.
it was
Exactly.
just there for the taking. I played
Yeah.
a saxophone through the school band system,
Oh, you
so I
did?
learned music through playing saxophone and doing all that fun stuff. And when I picked up the guitar, I just translated it to guitar and took off from it. But the guitar
Sure.
quickly took over as my primary love instrument, whatever.
And who would you say, as far as guitarists, who your idols are?
Well, back then when I first started, it was, learning John Denver songs,
Really?
Sunshine on My Shoulder, that's kind of stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
just the easy stuff. So
Yeah.
I started acoustic hand, finger style acoustic type stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then Peter Frampton got huge
Oh,
out
right.
of nowhere. And
Yeah.
I literally learned how to play guitar by woodshedding on Frampton Comes Alive for a full summer when I was about 13 years old,
Oh, okay.
and just learned it note for note, phrase by phrase, up and down. And by the time I finished both albums, I actually knew how to play guitar. So it was kind of fun. And then I went to school with a bunch of jazz heads. Some really accomplished players came out of my school. And
Mm-hmm.
so that led me down the path of fusion and all that other fun stuff. And I spent a lot of time with Metheny and Lee
All right.
Ritenour and BB King and other guys. I had a
Okay.
great band director who encouraged me to branch out into as many different styles of guitar as I could come up with.
Oh, really good.
His advice was, hey, if you learn as much as you can about the instrument and the many ways it can be played, you'll
Mm-hmm.
always be working, as long as when the phone rings, you're able to give them whatever they are asking for, right? And he
True.
goes, you don't
Yeah.
have to be the best at everything, but you need to be
Mhm.
authentic at as many things as possible, so that when they call you to do a country gig, you sound like a country guitar player. When they call you to
Right.
do a blues gig, you sound like a blues guitar player, and all
Yeah.
those things.
You
And
have
that
to
was
have,
the best advice I got. And so I spent a lot of time listening to all kinds of different players and music
oh, okay.
and
Mhm.
drawing that all into my playing.
Right. Yeah, you have to have that versatility for sure,
Hmm.
And
Yep.
so then, and you're also a killer vocalist. So what
Well, you're awfully kind.
well, I remember working with you. You were hitting that Toto
Cheers.
stuff. Nah, way up there. And
Yeah.
cheers. So who were you did you have any idols as far as vocalists?
You know, I have to go back. Like when I just loved Gladys Knight when I was a kid. I just, I
Really?
still do Gladys Knight,
Mike?
and all of my live shows include at least one Gladys Knight tune.
Really? Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah,
Me too.
just a huge fan of Gladys Knight.
Yeah.
And then, I used to imitate other guys like, the guy from Blood, Sweat, and Tears, David Clayton Thomas. I thought he had a great voice.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And yeah, I'm trying to go. Well, then of course, when I got into high school, everything was Kansas and Journey and Foreigner and all those, and oh gosh, Mickey Thomas, what a voice there.
Yeah.
And so
All
I
high
got into
ranges.
and John Anderson of Yes, I was
Oh, yeah. Right.
into all of that stuff, singing way at the top of my range for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And God bless me, I can still do it now, which is kind of funny. But
Right.
one of my prime gigs right now is again singing with a Journey cover group or a tribute band, whatever. But just the ability to stay up in that range and still hit the
Right.
notes has been quite a blessing.
Right. Well, I was going to ask you if you have a preference for how if between backing somebody up and doing your own stuff, but then you also mentioned you collaborate with people. So let's get to recording. For recording, do you enjoy collaborating with people, or do you like
Oh
more
yeah.
have your own control sort of thing, or is it
No, I
happening?
way prefer collaborating, and
Yeah.
one of the things that came out of my last recording, the one before the one that's just came out last week, I put one out, boy, 10 years ago was the last
Okay.
one, because then COVID hit and everything went sideways. Um, but I worked really hard on that recording, and it came out really, really good.
Hmm.
But even in that, when I'd sit with the guy that did the engineering with me, and we'd discuss it, and I'd listen to it, and he'd
Hmm.
constantly be looking at me. He's like, what's wrong? What are you hearing? What's not right? And my response is always, everything I'm hearing is exactly what I wanted to hear.
Oh,
but
okay.
it lacks any outside influence. And there's this voice in my head that keeps telling me it could have been better if someone else was here saying, hey, did you think about this? Would you consider that? Or try this here, try that. I go, everything on this recording is me, and that's
Okay.
fine. But man,
Okay.
having someone else to give you some feedback or give you some influence or throw some ideas at you,
Oh, so that
is
person
for
was
me
just
is way superior.
they were just an engineer. They weren't a producer, right?
Right,
So
right,
that's what a producer does. A producer
right. And so I was doing all the
knows what
production.
they're doing.
The production was all me,
Right.
you know.
Right. I know.
And I don't mind producing. I've produced other people as well, but
Okay.
with my stuff, I crave other people's influence. I crave other people coming in and saying, "Hey," even when we had the big picture back in the day, I'd bring a
Yeah.
song in, and somebody would say, "Hey, how about if we try it like this? How about if we try it like that?" We had a song on the
Mhm.
on our one CD that we put out. We had a song called "Near You," and I had
Okay.
written the song in 4. I came in and I just played it nice and easy in 4. And Skip, who was the sax player, said,
I remember
if
Skip.
we did this in 6/8, I could take it to church. Like,
Yeah.
let's try
Right.
it,
Exactly.
But it's that kind of stuff that I really missed on my last record. And
Yeah.
not that it didn't come out wonderful. I'm perfectly happy with how it came out. Um, but then my most recent one, I did have somebody work on it with me, and it just
Mhm.
felt a lot better when I'd send over the tracks and I'd get a response back saying, "Hey, would you consider adding a girl to the choruses, or would you add? I need some kind of a guitar thing going on in the bridge, or that
Uh-huh.
kind of stuff."
Right.
And so that made me feel like I had help. Everybody wants a
Right.
little help now and then.
And so for people
So,
that maybe are watching this, that maybe aren't in the business, that's what a producer does. And so a producer being
oh
somebody
yeah,
like Quincy Jones, for instance. I mean, he's like,
yep,
you know, that's the guy, right? But to give an
sure,
example of somebody taking the artist and pushing them outside of their box or whatever, like you're saying. And another one, our
yeah.
local hero is Don Was, who's
Oh,
been
for
just
sure. Yeah.
absolutely taken on, the Rolling Stones, Bonnie Raitt,
Yep.
Bob Dylan, you name it. And,
Yeah.
they start the
And I had a lot more
foundation.
help on this. Yeah,
What's
I had a
that?
lot more help on this record. I have some friends in
Oh, okay.
Nashville, and I'd send them songs that were
Mhm.
like recorded, but not done, but just rough mixes. And like a guitar player buddy down there, and I'd
Okay.
say, "What do you hear? What would you hear on this song?" And he'd send me back
Yep.
ideas. Like he'd just play something, send it back, and and I'd take some of his ideas and bring them into the song. I
Hmm.
worked with a keyboard player down in Nashville who just fed me just brilliant tracks of stuff.
Yeah.
And again, when we talked about the songs I sent him, his first question was, "Well, what are you looking for?" And my
Oh,
response was, "I want you to give me what you hear, and let me decide what I use and what I don't use."
right.
I don't
Right.
want to tell you what I want you to play or how I want you to play it. I'm giving you the
Mm.
song, wide open palette. Send me what you hear, what you feel, what it does to you, and it
Okay.
worked out great.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about your newest release then. It's called No Quit.
Yep,
Am I right on that? Okay. And
you are right.
okay. And that's an EP or a full album?
Oh, it's 14 songs.
Oh, that's an album, all right then. Okay. And
It's an album. Yeah.
where did you record at? Was it a full out studio or was it a uh,
Yeah.
home situation?
A
Okay.
good friend of mine
Mm.
has a studio that he built in his home out in the northeast side, and he had the means to do it right, and so he
Okay.
did it right, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place in his home. So he invited me out there from years ago for my last record, and I've been going
Hmm.
out there ever since recording with him. So
Hmm. You also have a song called "The Long Run." Um, am I right about
yeah,
that?
that's off my last record.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
or it's a good run. A
Good
good
Run. I'm
run.
sorry. Okay, so
Yep.
that's not a single or anything off of this one here, is no.
No,
Okay.
that one was a song I wrote um, after I went to Nashville to hang out and kind of get a sense of the scene down there for songwriting.
Oh,
and ran into a guy named Rivers Rutherford at a
interesting.
Writers in the Round thing,
Okay.
and he just floored me.
Yeah.
It was like a lesson in how it's done. And it was
Yeah.
such a beautiful experience because his songs were meticulously crafted and they were delivered just amazingly well.
Yeah.
And I took that home. I left there and came home, and I'm like, and I felt like, I had been basically, someone had shown me the bar. This is what
Right.
real writers do in songwriting. And so I had to
Yes.
go back and recraft everything. And that's where a good run came out of. It was about song craft more than anything. And even though it's imperfect, it was a huge leap from a writing standpoint from where I had been. And then that was produced by Mike Mullenix and Danny Cox,
Okay.
that I was friends with at the time. And they took that song and produced it up and did a brilliant job. Lee Holland put a string arrangement on it that was just devastatingly good.
Yeah.
And so after that one, that was like the first song from my last record that was completed. And then I built the rest of the record out around that. So
Oh, okay. So that's what Nashville, that's a good education, like you say right there. I mean, 'cause that's
yeah, it's a great
songwriting
education
all
in a
that.
lot of different ways.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
go back to your latest EP then. What would you
yeah.
say a lot of your songs lyrically are about? Maybe take one song that what your subject matter is.
Um, that it's interesting because my writing is all over the place, and I think it
Okay.
comes from working and writing with so many different people that when I come back to do my own records, I just start picking from the pile songs that I like or that I've written that I enjoy.
Okay.
And so when you listen to my album, it is an eclectic, group cluster of songs of all kinds of different stuff.
Oh,
I
okay.
have a blues tune on there. I have a reggae tune on there. I have some ballads. I have some rock and some country, and it's just all over.
Oh,
But it's just me having a good time with music,
oh, okay. I mean, so is
Um,
it,
as
would you
as
say
far as
maybe one song's a
subject
love
matter,
song? Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
well, as far as subject matter, it varies. I
Yeah.
more lately, it's more trying to write positivity into my songs, like
Yeah.
uplifting kind of
Yeah.
type, encouragement or inspirational type music. Um, and then like 3 of the songs on the record are songs that I wrote for my sons that asked me to write their wedding songs, which
Oh,
I thought
nice.
was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that was probably a huge compliment, or real elevating experience for me when my son and his fiance came to me out of the blue and said, "We want you to write our wedding song."
Wow.
Them showing that kind of confidence in me was just
Of course.
amazing.
Yeah.
And so,
Um,
yeah, so all 3 of my sons had me write a wedding song for them. So,
really, all three of them.
and
Wow.
they're all on the record. So,
Beautiful.
and they're all different because again, all of their relationships are different. So
Sure.
each
Sure.
song has its own little thing to it.
Absolutely. So what would you say? I kind of got to guess here, being that you play guitar and accompany yourself, but what is your process for writing? Is it lyrics, melody, or do you start with a chord progression?
I always start with lyrics and melody.
You do.
And
Oh,
I was talking to Brad Stewart about this
okay.
recently, and because he likes to sit down with the guitar and strum through some progressions and see what comes. 99% of my writing I do all in my head,
Yeah.
and I have lines and melodies running through my head until they start taking shape, and then I'll get ideas for a verse or a chorus, and I'll start writing things down, jotting things down. And then when I
Mhm.
have enough of it to take it home, then I'll sit down and finish the lyrics out. And picking up an instrument is the last thing that happens.
Oh, okay. Because usually somebody that
Yeah.
plays like that, they start out with a chord progression, but it happens in
Yep.
a bunch of different ways. Do you ever find yourself like in the middle of a conversation with people and you have to, excuse me, I'll be right back. And then you gotta, because you got to
Oh
go
yeah.
write it down or something.
Yeah. For instance, a perfect example on this record, there's a song called Grady White.
Yeah.
And that started, I was riding around in the backseat of a car down in Florida and just going along the coast, and you see all these marinas where they're, boats for sale, boats for sale, boats for sale. And one of the boats was this big center console fishing boat with 3 motors on the back, just a gorgeous boat. And the brand of it was Grady White, right?
Oh, okay.
And just the way that sounded when it came off my lips, it was like it just sang well. I don't know how else to say it. It's like, Grady White, Grady White, Grady White. It just felt good singing it. So the rest of it was like, all right, now I need a story. So what's the story? What is the story about Grady White going to be about? And the story ended up being, a guy, hardworking guy, and his family and his boat, and that's where he finds his peace. He takes off on his boat. And so the story kind of evolved, but it all started with just, 2 words that I thought sang really well.
It's interesting. I've been finding too that title-driven songs are the way to go, like you say, and
they can be for sure.
I've been writing down just titles. In fact, that was going to be my last question, because I've been songwriter blocked. So I was going to ask you, what advice do you have for somebody that's writing blocked? Or do you have ideas?
I do, honestly. And one thing that I've done in the past is pick out one of your favorite artists, somebody that you like, somebody whose music you enjoy, and write something for them in their style. So if you like Alison Krauss, for instance, say, man, I'm a huge Alison Krauss fan. I'm gonna like immerse myself in Alison Krauss for a day, and then I'm gonna try to write something that I think she would do really well.
Okay. That's a good approach, for sure. It pushes you.
And then you just start writing, just start thinking in that, just put yourself in a different world. Maybe it's Earth, Wind and Fire. Maybe it's Bare Naked Ladies. I don't know, whoever it is. Just kind of immerse yourself in that just for a short time, and then start trying to write something that fits in there. And I've done that for a lot of people. Like the stuff I wrote for Jim Asbell, I immersed myself in him for a little while and threw out a dozen tunes, right? Brad Stewart, I've been working with him lately. And again, it's like I kind of immerse myself in him and what he does and the music that he's putting out and the whole vibe of what he's doing, and then try to create within that, and so it kind of takes me out of it. I'm not writing for me. I'm not writing a song for me to do. So I'm not trying to think about what I want to say or what I want to, whatever. But it gets me writing.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good approach right there. Excuse me, right there. So let's switch gears a little bit. I was talking about when I talk about saxophones, for instance, people ask me, hey, where do I start? How do I begin? And I say, well, do you have a saxophone? And they go, yeah. And I said, well, what kind is it? Well, I don't know. I mean, do you have do you find that a guitarist, for instance, should pick a guitar based on that guitars are built, I might be going off on a limb here, built according to a person's needs, you know what I mean? Like a tall person and the person with large hands, short hands, string action and things like that. Do you think it's customized to according to how own person's needs are? Because I find saxophones are, and saxophone reeds.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Absolutely. A guitarist has their guitar set up exactly the way they want it. And that's why, when somebody hands you their guitar, sometimes it's like impossible to play, right? I work with a guy, Kirk, who plays guitar with the Captured band, and he hates playing my guitars because of the way they're set up. I like my actions super low because I play extremely light. And he's a heavy-handed player. And so when he tries to play my guitar, everything sounds buzzy and thwappy, and it doesn't work for him, but it works great for me, right?
Okay.
So
so that's more like the
setup on guitars is a very personal thing.
Absolutely. So the distance maybe from the strings to the fretboard affects how the action and all that.
It affects how you attack the note. It affects how aggressive you can be with the notes.
Okay.
If you play a lot of slide, you might want the action a little higher so that your slide isn't clacking on the frets, you know.
Right, right. And this
But my
maybe this,
guitars are set up to play extremely light. In fact, I started on electric,
okay.
and then I didn't own an acoustic guitar until I was well in my 20s.
Okay.
And when I got my first acoustic guitar and played it for a while, I really didn't enjoy it because it didn't play like my electrics. So I had to take it to my guitar guy and say, here, I need this to play like my electrics. And he did. He refretted it and made it basically play exactly like all my electrics.
Okay.
But again, when other people play my acoustics and they want to jam and strum, it's not set up for that.
Right. Right. That's interesting. Every instrument is so unique within itself, the size of the length of the fretboard and Larry's got a smaller
Mhm.
guitar that he gave to his daughter, and I thought, well, this has got a shorter neck. Maybe I can play because I got small hands. And of course, me and
Sure.
string instruments are like, forget about it. But but so let's kind of wrap things up with where people can find your music at, and that's one question. I got two questions. Where can people find your music at?
Okay. The easiest place is online. Everything's streaming on all services.
All
And
right.
one of the greatest blessings that my parents gave me is my name, Duane Harlick, is singular in the universe.
Okay.
So unlike Mike Reynolds or John Smith,
Yeah.
there's only one of me.
All right. Well,
And
that makes it easier
anytime
for.
you put in Duane Harlick, it all points to exactly one person, and that's me and my music. So it makes it super easy to find my stuff.
Yeah, I can't go wrong like that for sure. So then
In
also,
fact, I'll
oh, good.
share a real quick story.
Uh-huh.
I was down in Florida, Marco Island, Florida, doing an open mic at this,
Yeah.
no-name bar. And I got up and did a few songs, and all I did was introduce myself. Hi, I'm Duane. I'm from Detroit. I'm a songwriter. And I did a few songs, and I got off the stage. And by the time I had gotten back to my room that night, I had 3 friend requests on Facebook from people who found me just off of that information.
Right,
You know,
right.
that's how
Wow,
easy it is to find me.
that
Duane,
works.
Detroit, songwriter. Boom.
Yeah,
Easy.
yeah. Can't beat that. So one more thing too. And so do you have any shows coming up that you wanted to do let everybody know about? This should air like beginning of June or so. So if you have any shows like coming
Oh,
up
okay.
like after that, you can uh let everybody
Well,
know.
I'll be sure. Capture Detroit is the Journey tribute thing that I'm in. They'll be playing all over town,
All right.
um, all through the summer. So there'll be a lot of those. Jeff Scott will have some shows
Jeff
at
Scott.
in Royal Oak at
Okay.
De Luigi's. So I'll be on
Mhm.
those shows with him, playing guitar with him. I'll be playing guitar with Brad Stewart on a few shows. He has a show on June 14th at the Wildwood Amphitheater.
All right.
And we're going to be opening up for um, Sadie Bass, I believe is the person's name.
Okay.
She's a national artist. We'll be opening for her on that gig. And then later, I'm going to be, me and another gentleman are going to be joining Brad in Denmark in September for a couple of shows over there. So we're looking forward to that.
Great.
So it's going to be a fun and busy summer for sure.
Great. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on here and joining us. And that was a whole lot of fun and
Thanks.
a lot of information for people that are into music. And
Well, I hope
so
so.
yeah, yeah. So everybody, if you've been tuning in, listening, make a note of those shows that Dwayne's going to be on. And once again, thanks for Duane for coming on, and everybody for joining us here on CHOPZ on Bloomfield Community TV.
It was early in the evening. He hadn't made it home from school. She was just about to call around, check in on his friends, ask if anyone had seen him or knew where he might have been. When out of breath and drenched in sweat, he burst in through the door. She said, "You had me worried, son." He smiled and said, "What for?" I had a good run. Mom, it felt so good. I took the county road to Main Street and came back through the wood. I guess I should have told you, but really there's no reason for concern. It's just having fun. I had a good run. Young love isn't easy. It'll surely break your heart. Her mother's intuition told her something wasn't right as he tore out of the house and disappeared into the night. So she waited on the front porch, prepared to dry his tears. But when he finally climbed those steps, he whispered in her ear, I had a good run. Mama had to clear my head of all the painful memories and bitter things she said. I'll be fine in time. I guess it's just God's way of telling me she's not the one. Still, I had a good run, yeah. Oh, he finished school and signed on to serve as Uncle Sam. But all too soon a hero he was, right back home again. As they folded up the flag and placed it in her hands, the weight of all her anguish pulled her to the ground. The heavens started crying and the rain came washing down. But there inside those empty boots she found a written note. So she stood before the mourners and read the words he wrote. I had a good run. Mom, I did all that I could do, but by now you've surely figured out I won't be coming home to you. Please don't cry for me. No, I was thankful and so very proud to be your son. I had a good run.